see what we have been discussing. Okay. Okay. So let me make this as a slide presentation. Okay. So how many of you, maybe let me take the chat screen also for time being. If you have any questions around any topic, please please post your questions in the chat box. So on a regular interval, I try to address your questions. Okay, feel free to post your questions there. So, but don't take it hard if I couldn't able to address your question due to the volume of questions coming in. Okay, so please cooperate with me. Okay, let me keep this little here. Okay, probably every 30 minutes or so, we'll try to see the chat box and see what questions are coming in. Okay, hopefully that is okay with all of you. Okay, so the session or webinar is specially targeted for MCP, right? Which is a model context protocol. But to get started with MCP, right, we need to understand certain core concepts of AI, right? How the generative AI works, right? From the generative AI, how we have moved towards the agentic AI, right? Why we are calling agentic AI than generative AI, right? How exactly the agentic AI has been uh, uh, evolved by a lot of different organizations, then how MCP will fit into both of generative AI and agentic AI. So we will see the transition from generative AI to agentic AI, and then we will fit the MCP where exactly the role of MCP would come in this. Okay, and then in this session we will be specifically looking at the end-to-end architecture of MCP. What are different components of MCP? And where exactly you will be using MCP and what is the need of MCP in first place, right? And how it is making the modern agentic AI systems much more advanced in terms of integrations with a lot of external ecosystems. Okay, so let's start with understanding the AI. Okay, I hope you are all aware of at least the chatbot, right? At least one chatbot you might have used. Either it is a chat GPT, right? Or some other Gemini, or else you might have used a Claude or any other some platform you might be using to ask a query, right? Recently, my kids are sort of started discussing who are in the fourth standard or fifth standard also. They're telling, yeah, I've asked in ChatGPT, I got an answer, right? I need not introduce a ChatGPT. At least 98% of the people, maybe the 2% maybe our parents or grandparents. Even my father or my mother started using generating some images or videos from by using AI. So they are more advanced than us by using different tools, right? So I need not introduce what is ChatGPT. If at all I wanted to introduce, this is a simplified platform where I can ask a question to a more advanced AI model, which can answer from its learned intelligence, right? So if ChatGPT is a simple UI, right? But the background brain, which is working behind the ChatGPT, is nothing but your GPT model. Okay. Someone help me? What is GPT full form? If any one of you know, let me see how many of you know. GPT full form. Don't, by the way, don't cheat yourself and and ask in the chat GPT itself what is GPT. So do you know what is GPT? Akhil Tej answered. Great, great. Lot many responses are coming in. Very impressive, right? It is a generative pre-trained transformer. Okay, it's a basically it's a kind of a architecture where it has been trained on terabytes or more than that, right? Data, so that it has learned the pattern out of the enter the entire world, almost I could say, right? So that is where it is getting this knowledge, and then you get the answer whenever you post a question to your GPT, right? Chat GPT is just a platform. Similarly, if it is a Gemini platform, which is given by the Google, right? The background model itself is called Gemini, right? So the Gemini platform will ask this particular LLM, and you will get it. Here the names are matching, but generally the model what they are using is Gemini. Till this point, it is good, right? Because we are asking questions, you are getting a responses. But what happened? Obviously, right? The man or a human on the earth is always aspirational, right? Then they started, if at all I want to get a response from the external applications, for example, I have a database, right? Or I have an external SharePoint, which stores your lot of documents, right? Or it is your GitHub, where you put a lot of code into it, right? Or it is like a one more platform or a website, right? So let's say it is a railways website, right? Indian Railways has a humongous of data, but you get to know some specific question out of it. To get to know, it might be very difficult, right? This is one way. And then coming to the enterprises where organizations, right? For example, you are working in a company, some X, right? Every company will have their own policies, right? Let's say, what is my international flight policy? What is the leave policy? What is the reimbursement policy? There could be different policies which the LLMs are might not trained on, right? These are the policies which your enterprise has. But to get answers from these external tools, how your LLM get to know this particular data, right? And then how it can answer from this particular external sources. Okay, let me change the color of this. Okay, let's say this is I put a boundary. So this is your external systems. This is your LLM. How your LLM can answer this one? That is where they have introduced a concept of function calling. Okay, they have introduced the function calling. I think you might know the term called function if you are having some knowledge on any one of the programming language, right? You keep a logic inside certain one function. Wherever you want to execute this particular functionality, you will call this particular function, right? Now, let's say I want to get some data from the database. What I will write? I'll write this particular functionality in this particular function, and I will make this function available to my LLM. Okay, what this LLM will do? LLM is a very intelligent brain, right? Whenever you are telling, hey, can you pull me the data of my companies where I have submitted my tender? Okay, let's say I have built some application by using my AI, which is some LLM, and then these functions I have written. I will just give this function description. That's all to the LLM. I don't say when to call. The LLM will intelligently act and call this particular function whenever it feels that it has to get this data from this particular external parties. Okay, so this functionality, additionally on top of whatever the LLM knowledge it has gained from the training, right? So that is nothing but your function calling. Okay, this functionality is called function calling. Same thing they are calling with the other name, which is nothing but your tools. Okay, they call it as a tools, which is a common name for your function calling. Okay, that time what I am doing here, whenever I am using this particular tools, let's say it is only about the database, right? I have explained about, but it need not to be about only a database. It could be about your data, means I mean to say code. It could be for your website. It could be about your any GitHub or any other external tool or your policy or knowledge base. I will create different functions and I will make these functions available, all the functions to my LM. How we will make available, we will see shortly, but you understand I'll keep these things as a separate code component, which will be available for my LLM. Okay, then who is taking that particular call? We went to call what function or what kind of a tool, which is nothing but your LLM. That is where the functionality of calling the external sources and get to the response, right? So we are assigning every function of this particular function calling to my LLM is nothing but a agent. Okay, let me iterate what I have told in a simple terms. Whenever LLM has to do any external system calling through a terminology called tool or function calling and execute certain logic by itself. Nobody is telling LLM to call this particular database function or GitHub or a website or your knowledge base, right? LLM itself is taking that call. That is called autonomously acting on a certain execution of functionality, right? That is nothing but your agent. Okay, so whenever you say the first model, where whenever you ask a response and your LLM is able to generate the response is comes under generative AI. Okay, wherever you need to get the external content and where you are allowing LLM to autonomously work on different sources to get the data and to act certain additional things apart from the intelligence, that comes under agentic AI scope. Okay, if you draw a thin line, generative AI is just generating the content out of your query from its intelligence learned from its training. The agentic AI is where you are allowing LLM to autonomously act on certain action. Okay, it is taking the action rather than simply providing the knowledge. Okay, let me show you a quick example of what exactly I have been talking about. Okay, let's take a chat GPT, this one. Maybe let me remove this scribbling on the screen. Okay, let me ask a query. I'll clearly show you the difference. Okay, what is the generative and agentic AI, how they have implemented over here. But please pay attention here because ChatGPT is very fast, right? You won't be able to see what action it is taking also. Okay, please focus whenever I mentioned one specific topic. Okay, let's say I'm asking how can I book a flight ticket? Okay, so now if you see it is directly giving the response based on its intelligence, what it has learned earlier, right? So this is nothing but generative AI. Why we are calling generative AI? It is generating the token one by one. If you have seen, let me ask the same query again, or else I'll edit this one and send again. See, it is generating the content token by token. Okay, or as a simple words, it is generating the content word by word, right? So token is a technical term, but if you see the word by word, it has generated. But if I ask a different question, which belongs to your real time. For example, today I want to weather in Hyderabad or in US, right? So where LLM might have not been trained on that particular data, but how it can know? It will do the external API call, right? And then get the temperature and give you the response. But did I tell the GPT model to go and search for the temperature in US and get the temperature? No, right? It autonomously taking its call. Let's ask a question. What is the temperature in Hyderabad? Okay. Observe here closely. See, it is searching web. It has shown it, right? That means it whenever it asked, I asked a question, it has decided that, okay, this is not the current information which I need to pull from, so that it has taken a call to call an API, right? So who has arranged to call the API? Right, in the backend, whenever they designed this particular chat GPT, this particular solution, there they have defined what APIs are available to the GPT model, and among available APIs, it is able to get the data. For example, if the weather API is not integrated or made available to the LLM, then LLM say that I can't fetch this particular information because it doesn't know what is the current temperature in Hyderabad, or it will try to give some answer which may not be the exact current live temperature from the Hyderabad weather report, right? So this is where the difference between your generative AI, which actually generate from its own intellectual behavior, right? For example, you ask a question and answer, or you ask it as a summarize the content, right? Or you ask as an intent classification. Let's say this is a good review or bad review. That is an intent classification, right? These are intellectual property of LLM where it doesn't need any external data, right? This is one of the example. But now even ChatGPT doesn't know your external system. Let's say you want to connect to your database, which is not known by ChatGPT, right? So, or you want to get some data about your own policies of your enterprise. There also you doesn't know about the enterprise, right? So that is why how you can create this particular functions, which is nothing but function calling, right? Or tools, how you will make these tools available to the LLM, right? How LLM will consume these tools to be autonomously calling those functions whenever it is needed. Okay, that is what we will be seeing. One through the function calling directly, other one is what is a other technique, which is nothing but MCP. Okay, by the way, to get started, as a lot of people joined in the session, let me introduce myself because I was waiting to introduce myself because a lot of people would join. They might miss my introduction. So I am Prudvi. I've been working in Naresh technologies from so long, and I've trained so many batches, especially on AI. AI in the sense data science and machine learning, basics of Python, right? Deep learning, NLP. Of late, we started with the generative AI and agentic AI course also. Okay. Currently, a batch is also going in the morning at 7:30 a.m. IST. So we just started 2-3 days back that particular session. Okay, that particular course. Okay, so and I have around 20 plus years of experience in IT. So still I am a working professional, working in very reputed organization in a leadership role. Okay, so that's all about me as a brief. So I've been working in this AI space from so long, and I've been adopting to a lot of tech around AI, generative AI, why people are chasing around this AI and generative AI, why a lot of funding is going from different VCs. VC means venture capitalists, right? How they're pouring into money, which technologies they're ready to pour money, right? All of this I am exposed to, not only the technology. Okay, anyway, this is all about me, myself. Okay, let's jump in and start the MCP session, right? So to summarize, we discussed how your solution or application are generating certain content by using a pre-trained model, right? In case of chat GPT, GPT is the pre-trained model, right? So these are called large language models, or in simple terms, these are called LLMs. Okay. So whenever they are generating the content, it is responding from its own intelligence, which learned from its training, right? But sometimes, just imagine for you, you have read about certain book, right, about Python or something, right? But whenever they ask you what is the uh, starting time of some Vande Bharat from Hyderabad to Vizag, how would you know, right? At least you should know. You will search in the internet, right, and then you see that particular information. As your model is already trying to read the content and answer from that content, right? Now you take that particular content, answer from it, right? In that case, from generative AI, I am taking that particular knowledge from the external sources, and I am asking the model to act, means execute that particular function, and then get the response from the function and answer from the response given by my function. Okay. So now let's understand what is this particular function calling and how they were doing before MCP and after MCP. Right? Because we need to discuss always before and after, then we will get to know how exactly this particular new technique or new technology is helping out better than earlier. Okay, so I hope I am assuming, I know you all joined from different backgrounds and different understanding, but as this is a web some kind of a workshop, I need to go with some assumption that you know certain basics of AI, which at least how you know how to use the chat GPT and how to ask and how you can get different responses from it, right? That is more than enough for today. Okay, now let's understand before MCP how it was working. Okay, and then what were the challenges before MCP and how MCP was able to mitigate, right, and solve certain problems with the before MCP. Okay, so for that purpose, let's understand okay, pre-MCP world. Okay, as I told you have already the LLM, which is the brain to get the answer, right? You have built certain application. For example, you have built a HRMS system. Okay, HRMS is human resources management system. Let's say your HR of your company has created a portal to ask any queries from this portal, so that you need not to reach out to HR for small things also, because every time a new employee joins in, they might not know how the whole system works, where to apply your leaves, right, or where to whom to connect if you at all you wanted to get something, right? Let's say you want to get to the laptop or you want to get to some other things from the organization, you might not know. Even experienced people also, you want to know certain things, right? For that one, they have provided a portal for you, which is HRMS system. The HRMS system is working with some LLM. Till this point, it is good. Basic responses it can give. But the additional data which is available only for your company, organization, you have created certain systems, okay? Individual systems. To connect with the individual system, what you will be doing, you will be writing certain functions over here. Functionality of, let's say this is system 1, functionality of system 2, functionality of system 3, you will write different functions. You will manually write all this code to make these functions available for your LLM. So the LLM can make a function calling to this particular function whenever is needed and get the response. Then it can respond to your queries. This is how it used to be, right? That time what you will be doing, you need to write the API. Even I'm taking assumption of you know the API. If you don't know the API, what it means, simply imagine whatever logic you want to execute, right? You will kept in a remote machine or a server, right? Whenever you want to execute that logic, you will make a call from this particular client. Okay. So the availability of this functionality getting called by the client is through the API, application programming interface, that is called API. Okay. Through API, it is making call. You are getting, it is a request, right? And you are getting a response. Now here the client, you have already the LLM. LLM is also here. LLM is the one who is calling the API of your functionality, right? So that is where you are calling this, you are creating the API for each function, and then you are making those APIs available. These are all is a custom code, whatever you are writing. Everything you need to write bottoms up. That means from a scratch, you need to write all these functionalities. Or if someone has given this API, you need to write your custom code how to integrate with your LLM. Good. This is one way. That is fine. But what are the core issues can be possible with this? Anyone? What could be a problem if I write all the, let's say GitHub? Imagine somebody has given you some API already, but to integrate with your chat GPT, you need to, or GPT model, you have one problem. What could be the other problems? Let me open the chat and see. What could be other problem? Security. Okay. Maintain multiple connections. Ramudi, you hit the nail. That's exactly hallucination. Okay. Strongly bounded. Absolutely, Rajeshri. Time taking. Yes, to build from a scratch, you need to write your own custom thing. So it takes a lot of time. Absolutely, Vinod. Vivek. Sorry. Load of more functions. Slightly, yes. Custom technical stack. VK. Absolutely. Insufficient data. Yes. So maybe, yes, most of you understood what are the pain points. Okay. Let me focus on what are the top three or top four pain points, because there could be a lot of things, right? With one problem, there could be underlying lot of sub problems within that. The first and foremost, we understood we need to know how they have written this particular functionality. Okay. For example, you are accessing a GitHub, right? To access a code. Maybe I told HRMS, but let's understand some other system. I have created a GitHub. From that one, you need to access the code. That time, what I need to do while writing this particular component, I need to understand how I need to create the API. Even the API is already created by somebody else, right? I need to know how to consume this particular API, right? To consume this particular API also, I need to understand what is the response, input request, output response, all of that I need to understand, right? So that is one more painful. And after I understanding that one, according to the response given by this particular piece of code, I need to code within my MCP, this particular LLM place, right? Not MCP, this particular place. It is a painful point number one. Point number two, obviously somebody told it is a time consuming, right? Point number three, it is tightly coupled to this, right? For example, they have added a new function to this external party. They have added a new function, right? Until unless you come and see whether they what exactly the new component got added, you won't be knowing what exactly they have added to this particular component. Until unless you read and you change again this particular thing, you won't be knowing anything, whatever they have implemented newly, right? Then there is a break or gap, because if at all you, even if you get to know they have implemented new, again you need to stop the server and you need to implement and redeploy this particular function, right? That is one. Tight integration. So you need to make this as a loosely coupled, right? So let's say these are top three or four things. There are a lot many other. Okay. Once we see the actual implementation by itself, you can get to know. Now, what is the solution they have done? Okay. Let me give you a clear example of your everyday problem. Let's say you have your laptop. Okay. For your laptop, what you do, you connect mouse, you connect keyboard. Let's say if it is you don't like your laptop keyboard, you want to explore your own keyboard. Okay. In that case, just give me a moment. Sorry. Okay, so the laptop, you have a connected mouse, keyboard, and then you need to connect to the some other gadget, right? For example, you want to charge your mobile phone, you need to connect one more, right? You need to connect one more device, for example, or you want to connect to the external desktop or something else, right? But you have a limitation of how many connections you need to have to your laptop. Then what you will do? You will get a connector, right? Where it will have all the external connectivity, right? With simply you will attach this one, and then whenever you need this particular additional mouse or additional keyboard or whatever device, you connect to this rather than directly connecting to your laptop, right? Kind of adapter, right? That is the kind of analogy they have brought in. They have not thought about this power and all, but they have thought about one kind of a function which is nothing but MCP. Okay, what this MCP we will be discussing. Okay, rather than, if you see here, rather than directly connecting these external systems to the LLM, whatever it has already built, right? So I am inserting one more component called MCP, right? In this case, what happens? It is loosely coupled. Let's say tomorrow, rather than, this is a Slack kind of chatting app. Let's say tomorrow, rather than Slack, I want to detach this Slack to a Microsoft Teams as a chart for your enterprise. What I can do here, it is tightly coupled, right? In this case, to remove this one, you need to stop your server, whichever is running here, right? But in this case, as I loosely coupled, I need not to stop, right? I simply remove this and I connect to this particular new Microsoft Teams to your LLM, which LLM can access, right? Let's say you want to say, hey, I discussed with my colleague called Bharat or whoever it is, right? I want to get what is the chart history from him, right? So that earlier you were using Slack, but now you move to a Microsoft Teams or some other Skype or whatever. If you know Skype business, right? You need to attach a different application. That is one I am giving. I'm making it as a loosely coupled. Okay. And the one more thing is, I in the MCP, I have brought in a two components. Okay, what those components I will discuss. To make it loosely component, I have brought in two components. Okay, so within this two components, within the MCP itself, okay, this MCP divided into two, okay, where I have furthered loosely coupled this particular system. So your LLM sits here and your MCP has two components. Maybe let me name it. One is a client within this MCP, which is nothing but MCP client, right? And this is a MCP server. What these components are, what is the architecture, we will shortly see. Let's understand the problem statement now. The problem statement is these are tightly coupled. I have made it as loosely coupled by bringing in this new component. Whenever a new change in system coming in, I can simply change that one. Obviously, I have made this as a less time consuming, because if Microsoft is coming up with their new system called Microsoft Teams, I tell Microsoft Teams that, Baba, if at all people from outside need to adopt your tool, if you give them the functionalities of your Microsoft Teams as a predefined MCP server, they will simply integrate into their application, so that they need not to write how to access your chart history and how to summarize that particular chart history. They simply call chart history and they pass certain parameters and they get all the previous chart history and they can summarize and get it back. Okay, see how loosely I'm coupling my existing functionality with MCP, right? So there are other pieces coming to picture that we will understand by looking at the components of MCP. Okay, so as we are close to 30 minutes, okay, let me see if there are any questions. Okay, if there are any questions, I'll try to address your questions. Bhavani, I hope you have audio now. Okay, Padma, you said point one, so I missed that time. So let me repeat. The point one could be the tightly coupled. Okay, let me repeat the points. Probably let me show you on the screen itself. Okay, without MCP, you need to write the entire functionality by yourself, right? And you need to know what additional logic you need to execute and whatever they will return, right? That's what you need to know. For example, let's say you have your delivery partner. Let's say you have ordered a some product and they have told you we will get you that particular product. Okay, if they don't define how they will deliver, right? What they will deliver, how they will be means how they will be packaging and delivering it to you, right? You have a lot of assumptions in your mind, right? So that time you need to have a predefined structure how the whole system would be working in, right? That is nothing but you are standardizing the delivery process. Now we are almost equipped with everything how the delivery system works, but whenever they started would have lot of apprehensions whether to buy it or not, whether if I buy whether it will get returned or not, if you don't like, all of that is established now, right? So similar to that, I am preparing a lot of predefined rules how I can communicate to you the product whatever you have ordered, right? So kind of thing, the MCP will also tell you how to communicate with the external systems, right? I've shown an example with the ChatGPT. If at all I'm asking about whether it is going and pulling from the website, how the LLM knows? Because LLM is already trained. If at all you don't know this particular thing, you try to see what are the functions or tools available for you. Try to use any one of these tools, right? That's how it is trained. So it is going and getting that particular content from the external party. Okay, I hope that is your question around point one. Okay. I think previously there were less questions than answering my queries. Let me see what are the questions they have. What backend, what the backend of LLM? GPT, what is GPT 4.5 and 5 difference? Okay, Satya. Let's say you have the LLM, which is nothing but your model. Okay, GPT 4.5 or 5, whatever it is, right? So the backbone of this LLM is nothing but a transformed architecture. It is a specific kind of a architecture they have put together. Maybe if you could join the course, which covers a entire generative and agentic AI, you will better know what exact architecture we have been using to design the system. Imagine this is a complex deep learning neural network. Okay, based out of neural network, we have designed the system which can answer your queries. How it will answer, because of based on this particular architecture, I will be training on a humongous of data so that it will understand the patterns or the data, how it is, right? Then it will able to answer you. But the thing is, for you are asking basically what is the difference between these two, that I can cover. Basically from 5 onwards, they made this as a reasoning model. That is one, right? And now whenever they're maturing towards this LLM, what they've made, these models are now multi-modal models. This is multi-modal. What is meant by multi-modal model? Now you see the LLMs predominantly are text-based, right? But now these days the models can generate image if you ask through text, or it can generate video also, or it can generate some flow charts, right? So different modalities means different output formats or types of different outputs it can generate, right? So whenever I think till GPT 4 before Mini or Omni, they were they were doing only text to text. After that one, they started doing for multimodal, and then these are the reasoning models also, because whenever you see LLMs, the major problem with LLMs is a hallucination. Okay. What is meant by hallucination? Let's say if somebody asks in interview, right? If somebody asks you, you don't know the answer, what you will say? You'll keep telling something. Just you blabber something, just not to respond, right? Similarly, LLM also what it does, if it doesn't know that, right? It started giving some incorrect responses, which is very dangerous, right? Because it shouldn't be giving whatever it is. At least it should know. I don't know that one, so that you will say, okay, it doesn't know, so you will search by yourself at least. Or if someone believes like ChatGPT forever, like my kids, they don't know, they can't differentiate what is a true or false. Also, even sometimes, for a complex question, if it answers, we will try to figure it out. Okay, this might be the right. Rather, we need to cut down the hallucinations. By the reasoning model, the hallucinations are brought down drastically. And one more thing is, all the companies are looking at AGI. Now they are marching towards AGI. What is AGI? Artificial General Intelligence. What it means? How human thinks. Let's say at the same time, I can do multiple things. I can talk, I can see, I can hear, I can smell, and I can think also, right? And I can do multiple things. I can write text also, I can draw image also, right? I can do multiple creative activities, right? Similarly, they wanted to make the models as close as to the human, who can perform all the actions, right? Including motion. Let's say if I am waving my hand, right? Even that signal is coming to my brain. At the same time, am I not talking? Still I am talking, right? All the activities can be done by these models. That is what they are marching towards AGI. One of the step towards AGI is nothing but making all the modalities available in the same model, which is nothing but multimodal. So these are the certain differences of your latest models. But this is only from OpenAI. These models are only from OpenAI, but even Gemini also coming up with their own, means Google is coming up with their own. And then each model is specifically working well in certain core areas. For example, ChatGPT or OpenAI, whatever GPT model they have released, it is very good work on a textual basis answers. You see the appropriate formatting, appropriate question answer mechanism, it is comes absolutely fine. But whenever you go to code, if at all you have got a problem, when you copy paste your error and get the code, maybe Claude, which is from Anthropic. Okay, if you don't know, let me write on the screen. Sorry, I'm writing through my mouse, so don't scold me. CLAUD. Claude is a one kind of a model. Under this Claude, there are multiple subversions also, Opus, Sonnet, something like that. Okay, this is designed by a company called Anthropic. Okay, which is backed by Amazon basically. Okay, because this is a heavy funding needed organizations, right? So Anthropic is the organization which is designing this particular model. Basically, this one they are quoting this works very well for the code, right? Like that, every model might have their own edge about one specific task, but generally every company is working. If the model should work as good as a human on all the tasks what human can perform. That is what nothing but AGI. Okay, that is the backend. I think MCP will reduce the hallucinations. Aradhana, that question is very, very good. Let me explain you little elaborately. Okay, let's say what is MCP? MCP is getting some additional information from your backend system, right? Let's say this is your backend system. It is getting the information and giving it to your LLM. That time, generally, if that answer doesn't know by the LLM, as I told an example, right? In an interview, how you will blabber for a question. You means every one of us, right? So similarly, it might blabber if it doesn't know. But as you are giving the additional context, pulling from the external source, the percentage or the hallucination will come drastically down. It not only with MCP, it can happen with your function or tool call also. Okay, but to your question, if I want to ask, say yes, it can reduce the hallucination because the additional context, additional information, whichever LLM doesn't know, it is pulling from the external source. Okay. I'll address your question. Maybe full screen just the okay. I'll do the full screen. It comes to market and MCP and every AI projects nowadays. I'll address your question, Vivek. We'll come to, because you might know here and there MCP, but let me go a little deep under the architecture components. Okay, then I will address these kind of questions. Do what MCP will do in LLM and what will be the use of MCP? Okay, I'll address your questions. I understand what kind of questions are coming in. Okay, let me address a very basic question, what everybody might get confused. Okay, is MCP is part of LLM or outside the LLM? Okay, let me make, somebody has to make it zoom. Okay, now we take the pen. Okay, what I told, if you look at my previous, this one, so is it part of LLM really? No, right? I am showing it as an additional component. By diagram itself, you understand this is not part of LLM. You are not touching the LLM. You are not touching the LLM, right? So, but what exactly it is doing? Let's say I have given an example of, okay, it has zoomed. Okay, my machine is stuck now. Okay, now it has come back. Okay, while explaining, let me take one tool so that we can write in that tool, then on the screen, so that we can refer back also. So I'll give you the mic also. Just give me some time. Let me address these questions. The regular questions are most common questions which can be addressed for most of you people. Okay, let's say you have the your LLM, right? So now what I told, you have your external systems over here, right? It could be MS Teams, right? So today, as I told, Teams and other thing, let's say you have your Oracle database today, right? But your client says that no, we are migrating from Oracle database to SQL Server or ClickHouse, right? Or some other database, right? So that time what you will be doing, you will be attaching your LLM to this one. If you don't use MCP or any other kind of it, right? It is tightly coupled, right? But you want to make it as a loosely coupled to you. That time what I will do, I will create a kind of a MCP mechanism. What it is MCP, we'll see in a short time. But here what I am doing, I am making a loosely coupled system where you can simply cut this particular database connectivity. You can attach this way, or you can keep both also. Okay, if you are extending, you just need to add additional thing into this MCP. As you are seeing here, the detachment, right? I need not to make one more new connection to it, and I completely need not to change my application where it may cause a lot of defects due to adding a new functionality. Rather, if I can add functionality in the MCP layer itself, I need not to touch my LLM place. Okay, now I address two questions. One is it part of MCP? No, it is external system to which your LLM is get connected to. Okay, the second question, is it specific to one specific tool rather than, can you give me some other example? I have given a example of database, or you can take any other example. Let's say you have a CRM. Recently what happened, Indian government told we will stop using all the Gmail or any other tool. We will use Zoho Gmail only across all our government offices. Then what they might have done, they might have revamped all their systems. They need to reconfigure, redeploy a lot of applications to get connected to the Zoho email system than a Gmail system, right? That time they might have updated entire systems. It is a very cumbersome process. Rather, if the MCP does exist earlier, or they might have used MCP also now to connect to the LLM systems, Okay, by the way, this is to connect to the LLM system only, right? In that case, if they use some chatbot, rather than going through your Gmail, opening a Gmail and reading the Gmail, if they give you access to the Gmail through your chatbot and you ask what emails I have got, right? Rather than connecting to Gmail now, it needs to connect to your Zoho email account. You can simply replace by using MCP tech, as it is an intermediary or decoupled way. Okay. Okay. So now let's go a little deep into the MCP architecture, right? And then you will get to know and understand. Then I will quickly show you an example so that you connect pretty fast to this particular concept. Okay, now what I have been telling you. So I build this particular MCP component, but we didn't discuss what exactly it will contain because I am bringing a component. I gave you an example also as an adapter, right? Rather than directly connecting your components to your laptop, you are connecting a one hub, USB hub. To the USB hub, you are connecting all your devices. Similarly, this one you are connecting, right? For example, your laptop doesn't support a USB-C, right? But your adapter supports. That time your laptop still can work with that, right? That kind of a loosely coupling thing I have brought in through MCP. Okay, let's look at what is the architecture of MCP. Then we will come back to your questions after again 15 or 20 minutes. Okay, because we have a limited time, we wanted to make use of this time for most of the participants. Okay, now to understand this particular MCP, okay, this MCP is divided into two levels. Okay, one, take different colors so that okay, maybe I'll go to this particular tool than writing over here. Okay, so now I have taken this is my chatbot. Okay, this is a chatbot where you will ask a question, right? Now what the question will happen? The question will come to my backend where my LLM sits. Okay, so my LLM, if at all it is already trained on that for question, it will respond to my question, but it doesn't have that particular information. What it needs to do? It has to connect to the external systems, right? Either it could be a website or a weather report website or your database, or it could be external software, right? Like a Microsoft system, Microsoft Teams or Salesforce CRM, right? Or sometimes let's say rather than opening your Amazon application, you want to see what orders you have done, where the order is. If you have deployed that kind of application also through chat mechanism, right? Even Amazon could be your external system, right? If LLM doesn't have that knowledge, what it does, it will simply go and get this particular external data, request for it, get this one, right? So this additional data, whatever it is getting from the external party, is nothing but the context, called as a context. Okay, this additional data, whatever it is getting from the additional external party's context, along with the context, it will go and execute that particular question, right? That means this question plus context go as a prompt to your model, and the model will answer for this particular prompt. The answer as usual, go back to your chat applications, right? This is how you are doing rather than directly application, directly connecting to your external system. What I told, let me read is in the same system. Okay, maybe let me take a different color. This is same your chatbot, right? And you have your LLM, and here you have a external system, whatever you have. In between, I am writing this particular MCP. Okay, right? What it does, it will connect to the MCP, and MCP will know where to go and how to get that information. It will get and give it to the LLM. LLM will answer, and the response will go to your chatbot. Okay, this is how I have decoupled. Now let's understand what this MCP will contain. Okay, let's zoom in. Here, it will contain two components. Okay, this is your server, which is nothing but MCP server, and this is nothing but your MCP client. Okay, so what happens now if you have a GitHub? This is your external system, right? Here you have a Salesforce CRM, or you have your SharePoint where you might store different PDF documents, all of your knowledge system into this, right? All this functionality to access this external system are kept into this particular MCP server. Okay, now to access this particular functionality and provide it to the LLM again need not to connect to this particular system, right? Because if I have the MCP server for the GitHub, if I want to remove this GitHub and keep it as a different big bucket, that is one more tool where you can put your code, big bucket, right? So to connect to the tool, rather than directly connecting, the client will be implemented over here. Okay, in that case, client and server will talk to each other because client will know how to talk to the server, and then the client is responsible to provide the content whatever is needed for your LLM. Okay, see how we have zoomed out. So this box is earlier box like this for you, and this is a zoomed out portion which contains both MCP client and MCP server. But till this is point is fine, right? Then what is the language it will speak, right? Because if at all it has to be in the common component, everybody should talk to in the same language, right? Let's say GitHub might talk in a different language. Salesforce will talk in a different language. SharePoint will talk in a different language, right? That time you should have a common component which can communicate with all the systems in a similar way so that there won't be any impact for you wherever your LLM want to talk to these guys. That is where the MCP client will make sure it will understand how to connect to the server and how to get that information and how to pass that information to your LLM. Okay, so that is why the third component, let's say MCP client is one component of your MCP, second component is your MCP server, and the third component is a protocol. What is a protocol? You might hear protocol, right? Let's say if president is coming to Hyderabad, they say we are doing a protocol, right? If CM is coming, they are telling a protocol. What is meant by protocol? It is set of rules. Let's say if a president comes in, these people should come, and these are all the systems should attend, and who has to go to invite president. All these are already predefined guidelines prepared, right? That is nothing but protocol. So for MCP also, to connect to the external systems, it has created certain guidelines how they will be connecting to the external systems. That means what is the importance or what is the significance of this protocol? All the big organizations, whoever want to create this MCP, right? They must follow these rules. If they don't follow, they cannot attach their system to the LLM. For example, you have created a new software. Okay, now everybody wanted to use AI only in their organizations. If you don't create an MCP server to your system, then what people do? People stop using your tool itself, because that particular tool cannot be attached to the LLM unless if your tool is very popular, they will directly write their own logic to replacing your MCP, right? But it is better to give MCP so that the adoption will be very high. Whoever using AI, they might use your tool, right? That is why everybody, the big organizations, started giving their MCP servers for their external systems so that it can be consumed by the chatbots directly, rather than they only create their own logic. That is the funda behind why the MCP is becoming very, very popular, because every organization, they want to create a chatbot, obviously, right? Rather it would be HRMS system or it admin system or to book a ticket, even to some extent, right? These days, some companies are making agentic systems where they will install all the software in the laptops by themselves. Whenever new joinee comes in, they will auto trigger, right? All these systems, they should connect to one the external software. Let's say this is the just today or 2 days back, Zoho has released their ERP. Okay, let's say imagine this is a system like SAP, right? Like SAP, Zoho also released one ERP system. Like SAP, if at all they want to talk to the SAP or to the Zoho, right? So if they don't give the MCP server, right? Maybe they might not able to connect to through chatbot, unless this is where Zoho become very popular, so that everybody start creating their own logic to get connect to the chatbot, right? But it is better for Zoho to get a more adoption from a market. They will create MCP and they will provide this MCP to the people. Okay, then they will simply integrate to the chatbot. That is how the MCP concept itself becoming very, very popular. Okay, so before jumping into it, let's create a quick demo of how MCP works, and then we will come back to the MCP client part. I hope you understood how the MCP server is making the vibrations in the market, because rather than you writing how to access Zoho, somebody is giving the particular functionality. As the MCP server is already created, you simply try to access the Zoho through MCP server. Rather, you directly accessing your rather than directly accessing here, you will connect through MCP server so that it is loosely coupled, as well as you need not to have a pain to understand how the Zoho works. Rather, Zoho has created your MCP server itself. Okay. So now, as I told, there are components like client to server, which is nothing but you consider it as a MCP. Okay. Third one is protocol, right? The fourth and most important, not only important, where you will be using the whatever you're telling a chatbot, right? We are taking it as a light, but the chatbot, whoever implements this particular MCP client and server, right? They have to know how to consume this particular MCP client, right? It is very easy. You will get to know in a short time how it will be very easy, but at least they should know, right? So that's why they have created a concept of host. Host is nothing but your chat application. Okay. And then here, if you see, right, we have a 4 layers. Layer 1, which is your chat application. This is host, right? And then obviously your LLM will be part of your host only, or your external, you will be calling the LLM from external. Okay. OpenAI you will be calling, but this is your one host. And then you have the client right? This is second, and you have this particular server, third, right? And how it has to communicate between host, client, and server, which is nothing but a protocol. Protocol is nothing but what? Set of rules how they have to communicate. Okay, a lot of movies you might have seen. He will go to some hero will go to some a new village. He doesn't know how to speak in that village, and there will be a big fight. Right? That's what we will see generally in movies, right? That time, if he knows how to communicate with villagers, which is nothing but rules and guidelines of that village, there won't be any issue. Similarly, they have created a protocol how these host, client, and server has to talk to each other, and how the server should talk to the external systems, or external systems how they can give their connections through the MCP server. That is nothing but a protocol. Okay, so this is what here it is shown. This is your host application, nothing but a chat bot, whatever you create. Like in this case, your ChatGPT solution, whatever you see as a web portal, that is nothing but a host. And you have a clients to connect to a different external systems through MCP server. Okay. So if you have how many external systems, those many clients will be created and the respective servers will be there. Okay. Let's say tomorrow, if at all, rather than this, let's say this relates to Oracle, right? But tomorrow you replace with SQL server. You will simply write one more client and server for SQL server, and then you will get to know how this particular SQL server works for your chatbot, right? That is how they have designed this particular system. It is just a standard way how you can communicate to the external system to get the additional context. Okay. Now we will reveal the name of this particular thing: model context protocol. Right? Now you understand. Let's say your model is LLM here or GPT, right? So for the GPT, you are getting the additional content from the external system. In case of SRM, CRM, you want to know your customer details. What is he, where he works, what is his age, what is his salary, and all is in the CRM, right? He got that data as an additional context to the LLM, so that your LLM say, hey, I know you are working in this particular company. Your interest rate would be much more lesser than anyone else because you are working in a tier 1 company. But how the LLM will know? By getting the additional context from the external system by using MCP technique, right? How it is getting? By following certain guidelines, which is nothing but protocol. That is why it is called MCP, Model Context Protocol. Okay, this is what the MCP they are calling as. Now let's understand one solution how we can do. So rather than using ChatGPT, I am using a host application which is pre-built, right? Nothing but a Claude desktop. Okay, I will show you how you can work with this, but let me quickly run the example how I can create this one. Okay, I'm directly creating a use case for you. Then we will go and discuss how you can create such kind of a MCP for your own use case. Okay, I have asked the question to the chatbot. Just observe the steps here. Okay, it is telling it doesn't have a access to the local file, right? Because it might be having certain issue, but it is creating it, but it is not able to create it in my local, right? So for that purpose, what I need to do, I need to give a access to my local machine to this particular chatbot. right? Because it has to understand how to create the file in my local, right? For that one, what I need to do, I need to go to the connectors. Maybe let it create this whole thing, or let me stop generating. I have stopped generating. For example, it has started this particular, it has created this particular HTML. Okay, this anyway, any chatbot can create. By here, what I want to do, I wanted to access my local machine and create this particular file in my local machine, right? That time, let's say go to manage connections. Okay, I will explain you how to set it up this one. It is running. Let me go to connections. Let me uninstall and install. Some access issue is coming for this. Okay. Okay, it is asking to which directory you want to give access to this particular file system, right? Let's say I say I want to give access to desktop. Select this folder, okay, and save and enabling this one. What are the tools available? For example, I can read the file from my desktop. I can I can read multiple files, write, edit, all of this I can do. Okay. Now let me go back. Okay. File system is already there. What I need to do, I simply need to close this, exit completely. Let me exit from completely from a task manager, because whenever you make any updates to this, it may get. Okay, the process is not there, completely got killed. So let me restart. Okay, can you create a file in my desktop? I'm just asking so that it will quickly check whether it has access or not. Okay, it is asking my permission now. Okay. Okay, so great. It said it has access, right? So please create a program for Fibonacci series in Python and write it to my desktop. Okay, it is creating this particular file and it will write to my desktop. But did I create any kind of a file writing system to my local machine? No, right? I didn't create anything. I didn't write any program as such, right? In this time, it has created this particular program, right? And then it might have created on my desktop. Let me show you. See, it has created this particular Fibonacci.py on my screen and let's see what file it has created. It has created entire code, whatever Fibonacci series it has to create in Python, right? So now let's ask one more question to create a presentation. Can you create a presentation on gradient descent in my desktop? It got hanged. Okay, in the background it is running. I think whenever it completes that particular task, it will create a presentation. I will show you once it get created. It's completely, let me close and reopen or else. It is completely got stuck. Okay, but anyway, you have seen one example of how you can create. Now let's discuss how it is possible for it to create such kind of a file in my local, right? Or connect to the external system also, right? Here I have used my local system, but if at all I want to connect to the external system like a database or any external system, whatever it deploy, how it can create. So to work with MCP, right? As I told you, your MCP server can connect to the external system, but that external system can be in your local, right? Or in the remote also. That means let's say SQL server I can create in my local machine also, right? That time your LLM should also be able to connect to my local server, local SQL server. It should be able to get the data and then give it to the LLM, right? Furthermore, not only remote, it has to connect to my local system. That's where one of the local system is my file system. I didn't create how to read the file and how to create the file, but I was able to create a file in my local system, right? That means I have created a local MCP server with which it can connect to my local system. If at all you want to connect to the external system like GitHub, which is externally deployed, that time also you can write a MCP, a server where it can connect to the external GitHub machine. Okay. Now let me see certain questions, then I'll come back here with this. Okay, I'll show you Padma one minute. I'll show you exactly how you can configure this file system and all. Let me address any other questions before I proceed to that. Create a receptionist chatbot that communicate backend system. Then do we need MCP server? Absolutely, Rangareddy. If you want to talk to the backend system, right? Your LLM doesn't know how your backend system works, what functionalities it can give you, right? That time if you create an MCP server for it, or you can use the existing MCP server also, and you can attach this particular MCP server for that particular system so that your chatbot knows what functionalities your external system will support, right? That is why the MCP became very popular, because whenever you see any external tool, you don't know how the external system will work, right? Rather than you create the external functions and attach this to LLM, somebody might have created MCP server. Let me show you certain quick examples of what are different people has created MCP server, right? Let's say MCP server for Salesforce. Okay. See, they have created MCP server for Salesforce. Let's see for Microsoft Teams. See, they have created MCP server for Teams also. Like that for every system, because the external parties, whoever want to consume that particular service, whichever is external, right? They don't know how your tool works. So that if that particular tool creator itself give a MCP server, you can attach this MCP to the LLM so that LLM need not to worry about what functionalities would be supported. Your client will contact your MCP server, say that, Babu, help me whatever functionality you support. Then client will take whatever, okay, I can read the files, I can write the files, I can edit the files, but I can't delete the files. You need to define what to be done, right? That is nothing but a protocol you will define how it can access certain systems in the MCP, right? So then your MCP get connect to your external system. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so you have brought the very good question. Who is that? Anil K. It is kind of a RAG, but RAG, what it is doing, it responsibility is just to get the additional context. But there is no standard way, right? Tomorrow, let's say you have connected to a SharePoint today to get the additional context, right? But if tomorrow I change from SharePoint to a Google Drive or OneDrive, right? How you will do? Again, you need to write all the connections to your Google Drive or OneDrive, and you need to know how functionality of Google Drive works, OneDrive works. You need to write the API for that, and you need to provide the API to your chatbot, and your chatbot should know what functions are available, made available for the LLM, so that it can talk to a Google Drive, right? This much needs to be done. But to expedite, if Google Drive give you an MCP server, right, and MCP server tell you how to contact me, how do you know what are the things I support? Then you can simply add that MCP server to your chatbot, which is nothing but host application. You start working with your Google Drive. You need not to worry, right? That is how it is on top of RAG to make your RAG system to work with n number of systems without any hiccup. That is where the MCP comes into picture. Okay. In my company, we are using service now. Okay, so if we write MCP server to service now, do I have MCP server submit? Yes, service now I have already created MCP server. See, everybody, every player, big player started giving their MCP server, because if they don't give, they will be in a back in the race. People, whoever is building chatbots, they would not be able to use their external system, so the market will go away from them, right? That's why everybody started giving their own MCP server. We will see while creating MCP server also, there are two things you need to remember. Okay. The one thing is pre-built MCP servers. Okay. Like this, right? Let's say for service now you have already MCP server. So Microsoft Teams, you already have MCP server. Like that, the MCP is created by all the people who are in the prominent in the market. But there are sometimes there might be some system where they don't have any MCP created. For example, you have created one end point. For example, you have created an expense tracker system by yourself with APIs, right? But for these APIs, you wanted to make these APIs available to your chatbot. Okay. In the chatbot, what you need to do, then you can write your own MCP server. Okay. And then imbibe this particular external system in your MCP server so that it can be used in the chatbot. Then you may ask, sir, if it is needs to be added to the chatbot, I can directly integrate my API here. Anyway, I am taking additional effort of writing MCP server and then integrating with my chatbot. It is my additional pain. Rather, I'll directly integrate my external API to my chatbot. This is very valid question. But tomorrow, one more application want to consume your external API. Okay, that time what you will do? Again, do you take the same effort of adding this particular API to your additional one more chatbot, right? Or you want to make this as a common service for your other company firm. Let's say you have a sister firm, right? A lot of, let's say Reliance has a multiple industries in it, right? One is clothes, one is petroleum, other one is geo net telecom, lot many things, right? If they want to create, they want to use the same expense API. Again, they need not to write scratch to integrate to chatbot. Once they make the MCP server mechanism, they can integrate to any number of chatbot systems. That is why MCP became a common standard across multiple AI applications to be integrated. Okay. I am using ML model and accessing using REST API. If I want to go for MCP, whether I need agentic AI. As I told Arun Kumar, when you need a agentic AI, if it is a repetitive task, right? And you wanted the LLM or the intelligent system to take its own decision. For example, your ML model tells you whether a customer will buy a product or not. Okay, that is your prediction. Here till this point you don't need agentic AI because you can call the API, you will get the yes or no. But you want to build a system like this based on this no, right? It has to auto trigger a mail to the mail to that particular customer saying explaining about your product and trying to persuade with him, right? If you don't get a reply of till 3-4 days, you make a call to that same customer, right? Or you give you give him a some code, right? Offer code, 20% discount code you will send him so that he'll come back and buy your product, right? Those kind of autonomous calls, if your AI has to take care, because if you have a 2-3 customers, that is fine. But if you have 10 lakhs or crores of customers, how many customers you can review who are interested or who are not interested? Based on this ML model, if you can design a system based on your ML model decision, if you want to trigger the additional functionality which can follow up with your customers, then you can create an agentic AI system. For that's where for a simple task, agentic AI might not be required. You need to know the use case, what complexity, at what place you want to integrate. Those things you need to understand the use case basically. Okay, so under the MCP which is connected for LM will have so many MCP servers, MCP client that can be depend on various external implementation. Absolutely, KMV Prasad. There, what you are trying to do, you have only one chatbot, but the chatbot should answer from your database. At the same time, it should answer from your weather report, like a weather from any website, right? Or it should answer from your external database, right? Or it should answer from anything. For each system, there will be MCP client and server, right? So your host will be having your MCP client, which can talk to your MCP server. And from MCP server, it talks to the external system. It gives you the details about that particular system to your host. And host will respond to the end user. Your understanding is right. Why are you using Claude here, Sai? Now, whatever this MCP system is introduced by the Anthropic. Okay, what is the primary purpose of this MCP? Because the LLM doesn't know the additional context about your external system, right? So I need to provide that particular context to the my LLM, right? So this you can achieve through two systems. One is a function calling or tool, right? But function calling is very tightly coupled. Whenever I change a system, I need to change it, or I need to write my own functions to attach it to the LLM. So that Anthropic has brought in a common standard so that all the external parties can follow the same guidelines to create this particular functions so that anybody in the outside, let's say you are creating a chatbot, I am also creating chatbot. Let's say 100 plus students joined in the class also wanted to access the Salesforce, for example, right? For them, if I can give only one MCP server, they need not write from a scratch. They simply can use it. This system is introduced by Anthropic. Basically, starting it has introduced with Anthropic. Okay, that's why yeah, I'm using a Claude, but that doesn't mean that nobody has done it. That is why here I am where it is. I have used MCP host. Yeah. So I used ChatGPT also, Claude also, custom AI app also, right? I can use different system. Even you have seen the ChatGPT also, right? In ChatGPT, it has connected to the web directly, right? That means they might have used MCP or they might have used function calling, but nowadays everybody started using MCP because they made it as a common standard. For example, you have a REST API. If you know HTTP protocol, who created HTTP protocol? Don't know. Actually I don't know who has created it, but everybody started using HTTP protocol, right, to talk to the API. Similarly, they want to set a common standard where your AI application talk to any external system. They have created this common standard called MCP, right? So which is initiated by the Anthropic, so that Claude system became very popular. That's why I was showing a Claude, but I will show you a different other places where you can create this particular client and system, client and server. Because here I am using a predefined MCP server and client, right? One of the MCP server and client is my desktop, Claude desktop, right? Have you ever used this Cursor tool? I think this is very popular these days. This is a code which will help you to code. I think it is work started or not. Let me see. Like it will help you if you ask a prompt. Like if you ask a question, can you build me some program, right? It will simply create that particular program for you. It is not started. My machine is so slow today. Yeah, it got opened. Like this, there are so many tools. I think you might know these days there is a concept called vibe coding, right? Vibe coding means rather than developing your code from a scratch, you are trying to use a particular tool, right? From where you can get started rather than building from your scratch, right? So this is one of the tool. Okay. So here you can simply ask whatever program you want to create, even data science, machine learning, right? You can simply say, could you please create a recommendation algorithm. If I attach some Excel, I can put the Excel data, some sample data, and I can ask to build an algorithm for this particular data. It will start building the entire database like this, means the entire project like this, and you can start running your code. Right? This could be one of your host also. It need not to be only Claude Desktop. Okay, I used Claude Desktop as one of the application, but you need not to use Claude. Okay, like this, whatever custom application you use. Or you can see one more concept. I will show you Visual Studio. You might know these are the IDEs, integrated development environments, where here also you can see they have created this particular systems, right? Here also they have created this particular system where you can ask any query. Where it has gone. Yeah, this is a Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. They have integrated with this particular tool. What it is doing, this is your host. Visual Studio Code is your host. Under this one, they have added multiple MCP servers and clients to this particular host. Okay. To simply show you a quick example of how the MCP client and server works, because in a one single workshop, we can't cover the end-to-end all the topics of MCP server, but we have multiple dedicated sessions in regular classes. You can attend those regular classes. Okay. But here, let me show you one simple client. Okay. Or first, let me show you a MCP server, what I have built. Okay. For example, this is one of my MCP server. By using fast MCP, I have built this MCP server where multiple functions I am writing. These are different functions. This is expense application I have written. Okay. Now I want to make this particular server available for my application. I have created this particular host application where I can chat. This is the client, right? It is accessing this particular server and it gets all the tools, means what all functions I have defined for my server. It will get all the tools available for it and it will bind to my LLM so that my LLM will understand what are the functionalities your server is supporting today, right? And then all this one LLM can be able to talk to those functions and able to call by itself. I am not telling to which function it calls, right? So whenever I say invoke the prompt, here I told create an expense record of 5,000 within the air travel on November 1st. Directly with this prompt, it will create a record in the database. That is how I have created this particular application by using MCP. Okay, if you are interested to learn deeply into this, how we will create MCP local server, local client by ourselves rather than using the cloud desktop, you can prefer to join the course so that you will be knowing very deeply how you will get to it. Okay, as we are reaching to the end of the time almost, let me show you how this particular flow works. We call this as a sequence diagram. You might have seen in your organization how they will design. This will show you the flow of data and how the each system will talk to each other. Okay, for example, first what it does in the host application, the MCP client will talk to MCP server where you will be knowing what functions the MCP server is having. For example, you connected to your file system. The file system will support read file, write file, and update file, but there is no delete file, right? That particular understanding will come at this point of time. Whenever it start up, whenever the application started, it will connect and get that particular information. MCP client has all the information now, what MCP server supports. This will be attached at your host application, right? Now the user has asked a question, well, what is the weather in the San Francisco? If it doesn't need external data, it will answer from it, right? And then give back the response. If not, it go and hit this particular MCP client. Baba, can you help me with if I need to answer this particular weather? Now MCP client will check, okay, as I have got all the functions from my MCP server, what functions I can support? It got all the data. It has given that particular, and it will seek permission, whether you have permission. In case of our file system, it has it has taken my approval to create a file in desktop, right? Similarly, it will seek a permission. If it is not permission required, it directly go and hit the MCP server, get the data from the external system and hand over it to the client. What the client will do, client will create or summarize the whole content came from a server, and it will give it to your LLM model as a context. That means additional data, right? And then it will address that particular question from your host to your end user. Okay, this is how the flow happens with your MCP. So if you want to understand what are the core components of MCP, one is your host, which is your chat application, right? It could be web based or it could be desktop based, which will talk to your MCP server, which is part of your host only. Okay, this will be on your machine, or this could be as a web, right? And this component will be separate. Okay, this will connect to your MCP server, and MCP server will connect to the external system. Okay, so let me take certain questions. Yes, I will share the PPT through admin. Okay, the course duration we have is around 3 months. Okay, we just started 2 days, I think last week, but we are still covering the basics of prerequisites of the course like Python and the basics of Python. But you could join if at all you are interested. Okay, what are the prerequisites to learn this course? Yeah, Python and basics of neural network, but both will be taught by me within the course itself, very detailed. How the neuron comes, how the connections between neurons, how you build different architectures, right? And then we'll cover generative AI and agentic AI very deeply on different frameworks. If you are interested, reach out to admin. They will give you all the course content. Okay, next. So it doesn't require embedding database. It need not to. Okay, because here what it is doing, here directly it is looking at that particular function, right? It is not specifically searching for some content, right? It is looking for one function. I have written a function like this. I have shown you, right? In a Visual Studio. I have written this particular function already, right? What to be executed? I wanted to drop an expense. Whenever a chatbot has asked to add this particular expense to the database, right? Whenever I ask a question, it will come and hit this particular function, right? There is no point of using embedding, right? But in the RAG system, you might need to use embedding. That is a different concept altogether than the MCP. That RAG systems also we'd be covering in the course. In the RAG also, what is a basic RAG? What is a graph RAG? Right? In which cases you would be using a graph RAG or a normal RAG. This is what may mostly get discussed. On top of this, generally where the RAG system fail, the RAG system will fail when you don't do the proper validation of how the results are coming to you. That validation will also be clearly told how you can validate the system, at what places you can tune your RAG system so that your accuracy of the system will go up. Most of the production systems today are failing because people don't know how to validate the results. Everybody know how to build the RAG system. Okay, but how to validate, nobody knows. Nobody means a lot of people missing that particular piece. Even a lot of trainers are not training on top of how you can validate the results to refine your system. That is a most critical part in the RAG. Yeah, Srikanth Dastis, you have asked, is it possible for MCP itself will be replaced by better than? It is already coming in already. There is a new protocol called 2UTCP, or let me show you that. Yeah, Universal Tool Calling Protocol. It has become popular these days, right? But once you learn MCP, right? So they are trying to replicate the same by using UTCP by adding some additional here and there some optimizations. Okay, so so this is a new protocol coming into picture, but maybe it may take some more time because a lot of big enterprises have already adopted MCP. Maybe migrating for MCP to UTCP might take more time unless UTP shows drastic difference or drastic improvements over and above the MCP. Okay, UTCP is already coming in. Okay, what is the language used in the course? We use Python because there is a reason for why we are using Python, and along with Python, we'll be having different other frameworks like PyTorch, right? That will be heavily used because in the space of LLM, PyTorch is more prevalent than any other programming language. Python will be completely used. Okay, can you please on the course so we can see the how to put Vivekananda, to set it up this one, it will take time because as we reach the almost 6:30. But Vivekananda, definitely, if you are interested, you can join this course. We will show you step by step why this particular client will behave this way and what are the additional things you need to take care while creating the MCP client and MCP server, and how the full ecosystem end to end works, because this MCP itself takes a 1 week of time, right? Because as this is a workshop, I wanted to give a high level idea for on the MCP so that you will get a overview on MCP, how this MCP works. This is a start point for you to learn little deeper into this. So if you have a MCP client, that is not enough, Rajeshri. You must have a MCP client which can actually work with MQTT, right? If you don't have a MCP server, then you have to build your own MCP server. These are the two things. If you just have MCP client, you can't connect to your external source. Okay. Padma Sadi, do you have a different batch timings? Recently, I have completed evening batch. Currently, I have the only morning batch at 7:30 a.m. IST. How about deployment? Deployment also, we have the sessions for how you can deploy this particular MCP server and how you can consume this particular MCP server as part of your host applications. We will be creating our own host only. I won't be using any cloud desktop or such any other thing. We will be creating our own host. Within the host, we will be creating our own MCP client. We will be using our own MCP server, and how to deploy the whole system and how you can connect end to end. That will be shown in the course. Okay. But here as a demo, I have shown this particular one particular specific host application, which is nothing but Cloud Desktop. And I have shown you the cursor also, cursor and Visual Studio. These are the hosts which are connected to different MCP servers in the backend. Okay, I think let me see if there are any questions. Yeah, so Lena is a admin for this for my batch. Okay, so she has pasted her contact number. I'm reposting here. You can connect to this particular contact. Okay, why you are prioritizing PyTorch over TensorFlow? Rajeshri, because the LLMs, right? The LLM framework, if you go to Hugging Face, 199 out of 100 are built by using PyTorch. Okay, and even the prominent models like Llama, Mistral, Falcon, or you see DeepSeek, right? QN, all these open source models, these frameworks are built around the PyTorch only. So if you come to the majorly into the LLM space, right? PyTorch is used more than 90%, I would say. Okay. Whenever you go to computer vision, right? That's where TensorFlow is more prominent than PyTorch. Okay. That's why PyTorch is very highly used, especially in terms of your LLM space. Okay, Adela, okay, if I join the course, can I see recorded videos? Yes, we have a recorded videos also. So admin team will provide you the recorded videos for each day. You can refer those videos. Admin will guide you how to access those videos. If at all you want to see my existing classes, there are YouTube links. Okay, for the past 4 or 5 classes, you can go and see those YouTube videos. Okay, similarly, full entire course videos will be provided for you. Thank you, Shravani. Thanks for your positive feedback. Okay, but this is only 1.5 hour session, right? I couldn't able to cover little bit elaborately because to cover the concept and bring it to the MCP level, because I have a different group of people, I need to bring in everybody to same page, right? Or else somebody will be very advanced, somebody will be medium, somebody knows what is MCP but they don't know how to consume, somebody only know AI, how to ask a question and get the response, right? Slowly, I need to bring it to everybody to some stage, and then I have to bring it. So I took more time to make you or build the foundation. From there, I just able to discuss the MCP concept very high level. But in the course, we will discuss very deep into the MCP. What are the different use cases can come in picture? So sometimes everybody say that I should start building MCP. No, for all the use cases, MCP might not be required. You need to cautiously take a decision whether you need MCP or not when you need to build MCP, because more than one host application wanted to consume your API, right? That time if you build MCP server, that is more useful. But is only if it is only one use case which will be used, that time building MCP server is a additional effort. Let's say if you want to cook a biryani, if you get a very big biryani uh, utensil, there is no use unless you want to serve the big team every day, right? Exactly similar to that kind of analogy. Okay, let me see if I can give a mic to somebody if you want to talk. I think Nikhil has raised his hand. Let me, Nikhil, I think you would be able to speak up now.
Hello.
Hey, Nikhil.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Actually, sir, I'm working already in a one company. but
Mhm,
I'm working as a .NET developer right now. Okay.
mhm,
So nowadays we are using like some kind of role like backend as a .NET developer, and we are trying to integrate some kind of generative AI technologies like
mhm,
chatbot development and all these things. And in this
mhm.
chatbot development, we are trying to integrate some kind of generative AI capabilities, some like adding the some kind external APIs or something like this. Okay.
Mhm.
So now my question is like, are you going to cover this all this part like this in this particular course?
Yes. Let
Okay.
me elaborate a little bit more because everybody say yes or no because to make you join. But I'm, to be honest, let me put you this way, right? So whenever you are using a .NET or any other programming language, if you know a programming language, it is a best course for you. Okay. And then on top of it, as you already know .NET, and you started building how to connect to your backend systems. So we will be structuring the course very in an advanced way. One is we'll be teaching you what is a pre-existing before having certain frameworks, like let's say before MCP and after MCP, before LangChain or after LangChain, before agentic system, after agentic system. Then your mind will start thinking in the direction where how I can build without this framework, how I can expedite by using this particular framework, right? And you know already how to build your APIs and all of it. It would be pretty easy for you to connect to different external APIs. But if
Mhm.
this course is advanced course, I will be teaching how you can build your own LLM also. If at
Okay.
all you are interested, you can train your model and you can deploy your own models in the space of GPUs.
And one question like for embedding, we are using some kind of vector databases, right? Like
For
storing the
embedding
for embedding like vector
vector
databases.
store,
Yeah.
yes. You might know only till vector stores. That's what I was telling. To improve the accuracy of RAG system, the
Mhm.
existing vector database which can store just the embeddings might not be sufficient, because whenever you increase the complexity, right, you might need to maintain the hierarchy of the documents. Okay, for example, we have worked on one use case, but I can't put the client name. Let me take one Indian, let's say Mahindra, right? Mahindra have their automobile. Mahindra have their pharmaceutical. I don't know. Mahindra might be in some other places, right? Or let's take what you call Reliance. Reliance has petroleum. Reliance has cloths, Reliance has Geo or auto, whatever it may be, right? Whenever you have a big document of financial results, they will add all the sister company results into one single document, right? If you don't maintain the hierarchy, if somebody asks what is the gross sale of Reliance, how it will understand where you are referring, right? That time, if you maintain the hierarchy within the document also, if I can create a graph kind of a hierarchical system, then it would be much more advantageous. The accuracy of RAG system would get increased. So that's why we are discussing a graph database called Neo4j, which is very prominently used. Even for YouTube also they are using Neo4j. So those systems will also be taught in the course.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay, somebody asked about my course title. I think Lena has already placed the course title. You can opt for this one, and you can talk to admin people where they have given the contact number. Okay, Srikanth, I will take your question. After this one, we'll try to end the course unless if you have any specific queries. Okay. Yeah, Srikanth, I think you should be able to speak up now.
Yeah, hi Pradeep sir. Good evening.
Yeah. Hey, good evening.
Sir, in the future, so daily we are, I think daily in the market we are getting a lot of tools.
Mhm,
I would say that agentic AI and the generative AI
mhm,
and the different various kinds of an AI. So
mhm.
in future, this agentic AI scope will be for 10 years, or any new tool will come like as a rapid way. It also going to be replace the agentic AI.
Currently, agentic AI become a very hot in the market. Even I see if you put it in agentic AI, generative AI, definitely would call around next few days only. But can it replaced by the any other technology? Maybe agentic AI is not a technology. It is a methodology. Okay. For example, OOPS, object-oriented programming, right? Object-oriented programming will never change, right? That methodology will stay forever. Either you use it in .NET, Java, Python, wherever you use, that methodology will stay. Agentic AI is also not a framework or a kind of a tool it uses. Let's say LangGraph. LangGraph is a framework built for agentic AI. LangGraph may be replaced by something else, right? But the agentic AI will stay forever, I would say. Maybe they add some additional components to the agentic AI to make the systems better every day, but agentic AI foundation will be as is. I don't see any change would come for that agentic AI.
Sir, one more question is that this agentic AI, when it was connecting to the external systems,
Mhm.
so any kind of a cloud will be used, like as an AWS, Azure, and GCP, and other version tools like as an
Okay. So
Bitbucket.
so there are two systems. Okay, on-prem systems and cloud systems. Okay.
Okay.
Whenever you say on-prem, you can have the similar system in your own servers also, but it is very expensive composition, because if at all you want to support 1,000 users, where I'm taking very low, right? Generally, your, let's say Walmart, if you take the user base is in crores, right? To support that system, you should have a very huge scale system, right? But for one GPU, it costs you, one GPU server with 8 cards of H100 costs you around 4.5 crore today. Tomorrow, if at all you want to expand it to 100 servers, you need to spend at least 450 servers. Can anybody spend that much? May not be. Maybe in for some big tech companies. That's why everybody depending on the external APIs like OpenAI, Gemini, Claude, or something, right? Definitely, to your question, we need to use a system called AWS, Azure, or OpenAI, or whatever providers are, right? We would be using in our course also, we would be using Gemini, we would be using different APIs along with our own deployment class sessions also. I hope your question is addressed.
Yes. And sir, one more thing, which specific language we will use to develop MCP?
So,
Python, or is there any other specific language?
MCP can be developed in multiple languages, but in this course, we will use the Python ecosystem only.
Okay. And
Okay.
it will, because loosely coupled in future also, it will be, I mean to say that it can also act like as a one kind of an external. It can be easily
Yes,
integrated with other things and vice versa.
absolutely. Yes, that is why the MCP become very popular, because it is loosely coupled and you can do it with multiple different programming language also. There is no dependency with the programming language.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Vidya. I think you should be able to talk now, Vidya. Okay, let me see if there are any questions. If not, we can wind up this session. Thanks for joining in. Okay, let me see. Sai has raised a hand. See. Sai, would you be able to speak up now?
Hi, very good evening.
Hi, Sai.
My name is Sai Kumar. I'm almost having 18 years of experience. I'm a data architect.
Mhm.
But up to data science, I worked. But about AI, I don't have that much knowledge. Okay. Then how to prepare for this course, and is there any prerequisite for this course?
So if you already know data science and machine learning and you know, right? So the
Mhm.
prerequisites what are needed for this course, I'm already covering as part of the course. So mostly you don't need anything additional to learn. But
Mhm.
if at all you are interested, I'll give some pointers where on over and above what I'm teaching, you could learn those things.
Okay. Yeah. And other thing here is okay. Actually, I'm into the architecture only. How this course is useful for me to improve architecture? Is there any help from this course?
Architecture of data or architecture of AI system?
Actually, I'm doing architecture till now about up to data science only. Okay, AI
Mhm.
system architecture. I'm not having a. I don't know about ABCs also.
Okay. So definitely this particular course have multiple elements. One is accessing the proprietary APIs and building your own application architectures around RAG or
Mm-hmm.
agentic system or generative AI systems,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then there is one more component where most of the courses doesn't cover. In this course, we are covering how to build your own LLM, custom LLMs how to train the custom LLMs, and we will be deeply mentioning about how to build a neural network end-to-end use cases also.
Okay. And I think some of the already some of right.
Sorry, your voice was cutting off for me. Could you please repeat?
I think the course is already started and some of the sessions are over. Am I right?
So I was just covering basics of Python because it started just last week, and
Mhm.
first 2 days we were covering the course content and how to learn what are different topics, and then it is just
Mhm.
1 to 3 days mostly. 2 3 days we
Okay.
have covered Python only, and slowly
That
we
means you
will
are
start.
explaining about all basics of why I'm asking this question is I have seen the course name is advanced.
Hmm.
That's why I'm asking, will you cover all basics? What is LLM? What is generative AI? Like that.
Very deeply. To some extent it may go over and above your head also if you don't focus. I'll be deeply covering what is a transformed architecture, how each layer is built, what is the intuition behind to build that particular architecture like this. Okay, if you see my existing YouTube classes, whatever I have
Mhm.
been training, I have given my explanation about how what is a vector and what is a matrix, how
Mhm.
people are differentiating between vector and matrix. A lot of people don't know, right?
Mhm.
What is
Mhm.
why the calculus has come into picture? What is a derivative? What is a partial derivative? That level I will go to cover a mathematical foundation also, because AI is built on mathematical algorithms to understand the
Mhm.
data patterns. So I'll cover little deep to give you mathematical intuition, and then build a concept around how then AI has built on top of it, and how you build the solutions on top of your AI layer. All that will be taught.
Okay. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay, so lot many questions are coming in, but the interest of time, maybe I could take last question. Sorry to disappoint if there are anybody else asking questions through voice. Okay, you can post your questions in the chat box if at all you want to ask certain questions. Yeah, I given access to Arun
I
Kumar.
yeah, actually I'm currently working in this LLM thing all in my current company.
Mhm.
Okay, even I think this will helps me a lot actually. One more question. So I can do like IoT data also can be used in this MCP architecture kind of thing.
IoT data, how you want to consume? Would you be dropping this IoT data to some external system?
Yeah, actually, I'm just predicting the like mission sensor kind of thing. How the like quality of the machines running time thing. So like variation speed and all. So can I use
Okay,
this architecture in that?
yeah, let me give you a use case based, because this is a very high level you're asking. Let's say you want to build automated dashboards on how your sensors are working,
Yes,
and you
yes,
want to see
automated.
how defective machines are there, what sensors are not working. You want to build a dashboard
Yes,
automatically, for example.
yes, yeah,
Now in your system you are dropping all your sensor data into one backend, let's say
yes,
PostgreSQL or else some ClickHouse
yes,
database, which is data analytics database,
yes, correct.
right? How you can build a MCP layer, right? And how your
Kanaya,
LLM can
come
consume
here.
this data using MCP and get all the
Can
data
you
and build
please
these
give me some
dashboards.
cloth to
This
clean?
end to end, we can build that.
Hmm.
Okay, but I'll
Actually,
give,
the thing
yeah.
is, we are taking the IoT data, we are building one model.
Mhm.
Okay. So from the model, we'll consume that through API or something, we'll prepare the dashboard kind of thing. So can I use the GraphQL or which is the right approach? Or because you're saying,
Yeah, this is a very high level, right? I need to go deep into your use case. What kind of a data you have? Do you have any hierarchical data into it, or is it independent element? That is one thing. And if at all
independent
you
element.
have a, let's say again, I told you, right? This is a decision you need to take very carefully. Let's say I want to build MCP server or not. First, I need to
Hmm.
see, let's say, the data streams being used by
Hmm.
your model. Is it only one
Hmm.
time or repetitively in multiple places you will be consuming this through your LLMs, right? In that
Um,
case, building MCP would be very vital. But if you are using only
hmm.
one place where you are building dashboard only, there is no other purpose for this particular sensor data through LLM,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That time building MCP is additional overhead for you.
Okay.
Okay, that decisions we need to take by reading the use case in detail. What kind of a data you store, what is the volume of data you use, what is the latency throughput you will expect from the system, how repeatedly you want to build, what components to be built, should I use any other tools apart from the only generative AI and MCP, right? These are all will build around the use case.
Okay, 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 okay.
Okay, thank you, Arun.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, last but not least, I'll give it to one. I see the course full stack data science and AI. Don't understand what is the difference between this and the generative AI. Full stack data science and ML. I don't know where you exactly seen, but what I cover as a data science and machine learning full stack. There I cover a machine learning, uh, very rudimentary. I can't say rudimentary. Machine learning algorithms I would cover. There is no LLM, right? A GPT or Mistral, Falcon, all the LLMs we won't be covering there. There we will cover what? Linear regression algorithms or linear logistic regression, if it is a classification, recommendation algorithms, all basic machine learning level algorithms only we will cover there. And I'll high level cover the deep learning, how the deep learning architectures work, RN and LSTM, till that LSTM, and give the introduction about transformer architecture, right? Then we will leave, because AI is a very big ocean. If at all I want to swim through the full ocean, it takes so much of time, right? So that's why we split these courses into different layers, right? As in the market there are, nobody is teaching at the advanced level where you can tune the LLMs also, and what are techniques, how the different rack systems evolve and all of that. So we started this course specially targeting, covering both basics and as well as advanced. That is why it is specifically designed for generative and agentic AI. Very deeply we will be covering. Okay, if at all you want to learn data science machine learning, there is a dedicated course for 3 months. You can join that particular course. I see. Okay. Okay, I think Prakash Rao is the only one who raised the hand, and nobody else for the. I will address this question, Prakash Rao. After this question, we can wind up this call. Thank you all, whoever joined. Hi, Prakash
Hi,
Rao.
Pradeep. This is
Yeah,
Prakash.
yeah.
See, I have a 20 years of experience in IT
Mm-hmm,
with a different IBM BPM and Flowable BPM and other things.
mm-hmm,
Recently, last 6 months, I just started working on that service now,
mm-hmm,
which is administration and development.
mm-hmm,
So I also learned about the Python, which is the basics one.
mm-hmm,
After that, I realized that I can't be focused on the Python anymore. I mean, just a lot of other tools are there which are we need to continually learn about the Python other tools.
mm-hmm,
So I'm just that's why just I took a decision in the ServiceNow side.
mm-hmm.
So is it the MCP and Agentic AI? Is it mandatory of the Python's programming to learn this agentic AI creations or AI agents creation? Other than the Python, is there any other softwares?
Okay. So generally, if you see the AI, the ecosystem, so it's all about ecosystem, right?
Okay.
So let's say if you say a embedded system kind of a design, right? Generally, people depend on C++, right?
Okay.
There are other things also like a Go language or some other latest languages are coming in which are lightweight, but still a lot of people stick to C++ because that is a huge ecosystem, because a lot of external modules are already created to support the C++. Similarly, especially in case of generative AI and agentic AI, Python is very prevalent across this particular domain. Lot of modules already given, lot of things are built on top of Python. Recently, Microsoft and other team started building certain modules which can help in this space, but they couldn't able to compete with Python, because as the compete is an open source community,
Mm.
lot of people are contributing for the open source community, so that one single proprietary couldn't able to break that chain. That's why
Mm.
Python, I could say, kind of a must. If at all you
Okay.
want to progress at this point of time, but in
Mm.
future we don't know, any other competitor can come and hit the Python also. But at this point of time, Python is the one. If at all you want to progress in AI career, better to start with the Python and learning. But Python is such a simple program. No other programming language is that simple. Maybe I am biased because I am more into Python, but
Mm.
this is true also because I give the reasoning in my classes why Python is simple.
Okay. But is it the Python basics only, or we need to parallelly learn that multiple Python PySpark is there and the
Not
data
required.
bricks are there? Not like this,
Not required.
so the okay.
That is why
Okay.
in my course I'll tell you what is needed for this agentic course and generative AI. very basic level of Python is required, right? What are the modules required for Python? I'll be teaching those Python modules only. All the PySpark and whatever you are telling different modules, those are specifically for certain code. For example, you want to access billions of data records. There you need to use a PySpark because the training you need to do on the level of computation needed, we might need to use a specific PySpark. But in this case, you need not to learn pure Python basic modules would suffice.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Prithvi. Thanks for clarification.
Yeah, thank you all. That's all for today. I please, if at all I know you are curious to learn few more things, and as we have a limited time, let's connect in my regular classes. If you are interested, please reach out to admin. They've already given their numbers in the chat. Please refer to that, and you can join the course, which is advanced agentic generative and agentic AI, right? Which is at 7:30 a.m. IST. Okay, my name is Prithvi. You can join this course. Thank you all. Bye. Okay, Lena wanted to display her number. Let me quickly display her number. Okay. Okay, this is the course title. Okay, and then these are the course details. Okay, if you at all you are interested, you can join this particular WhatsApp group where you will get to know the updates around the courses. Okay. And you can reach out to Lena on WhatsApp. She will try to guide you on how to take this course and what are the other guidelines to get started with the course. Okay. Thank you all. Thanks for joining. Thanks for spending your evening. Bye, all of you.